But where is Yermak? Where has Andriy Borisovich Yermak disappeared to? And my friends, society is abuzz with concern about this, and I assure you I am not joking at all. And that very political stratum, that whole political class, is even more greatly abuzz with concern. And you know, we'll talk about this now indeed concerning the initial data we have at this very moment. However, I wish to immediately draw your attention to this. Just imagine how intensely some individuals must have detested and utterly loathed this person to now find themselves experiencing such a profound and undeniable yearning for his return. The man has departed. The man has stepped down from his post. The man announced his unwavering intention to serve the country on the front lines, already there, whether in military fatigues or in any capacity whatsoever. He is determined to contribute meaningfully. And it seems that in just these 2 weeks, with the country living without Yermak and the presidential office operating without him, things have clearly become quite somber, haven't they? Because right now, there are so many appeals and calls echoing around, and frankly, friends, we're even seeing parliamentary inquiries being made, aren't we? Where exactly did Andriy Borisovich disappear to? And why has he ceased to appear on his Telegram channel at the very least? I mean, even if you're in the armed forces, you can still post a hello to everyone, right? And well, just look, it's Deputy Zelensky, you see. What did he write? He wrote that the media reported his visit to the Foreign Intelligence Service, and then several Telegram channels claimed he'd gone to serve there, to work as an advisor. A formal inquiry was made, and the reply stated no, Andriy Borisovich Yermak is not employed by the Foreign Intelligence Service. The country didn't get its James Bond, but thanks for the answer, we'll look further. Here's the inquiry, friends. So, it's quite serious. A parliamentary inquiry from People's Deputy Yaroslav Zelensky, right? To the Foreign Intelligence Service. And their response was, no, he's not there. Andriy Borisovich Yermak is not involved with the Foreign Intelligence Service in any capacity whatsoever. That's the first thing. Now for the second story. Journalists from Censor.net contacted them. That's the publication, you know, it's actually associated with Butusov. And what exactly did Denis Yermak tell the journalists? Regarding his service, I have no information. He didn't get in touch with me. I'm also deeply concerned about this situation because everyone immediately ganged up on the person who was tirelessly working for Ukraine 24/7. And that is simply not fair. He has accomplished a great deal. And furthermore, this part is specifically highlighted in yellow. The Americans had him removed, isn't that right? And to try and strong-arm us into making concessions, Denis Yermak, who is currently serving in the Pokrovsk sector, informed the journalists. The Americans removed him. And then, once again, another reaction from Zelensky. So, there really was an American trace in this. You see, Zelensky just takes the words right out of my mouth, echoing all these rumors. Considering we might be talking about Alibaba, is that right? So, in modern espionage history, this operation to plant Medic, for which he received no reward, will forever be known as Desert Storm 2. To be brief, there truly existed this conspiracy theory claiming that Andriy Borisovich Yermak was intentionally obstructing, and Kuleba, the former Minister of Foreign Affairs, even confirmed this. He was actively preventing any communication with Kushner, for instance, during the previous years, specifically when Kuleba was completing his very last days in his official capacity. He displayed quite aggressive behavior during the course of the negotiations. According to American media, it was indeed he who planted the idea in Zelensky's mind regarding the photos of tortured prisoners. Zelensky then displayed these photos to Donald Trump in the Oval Office. This all happened back then, shortly after the inauguration, leading to that notorious scandal, now historically recognized as the White House quarrel. Vance, who had a falling out with Zelensky, and then it took quite a long time to mend that relationship. So Yermak was truly disliked by the Americans, or perhaps it was the American press that particularly harbored an aversion towards him. We shouldn't rule that out either. And this story kind of confirms it, right? And the whole story surrounding who exactly could potentially replace Yermak, a country where, truthfully, there are still approximately 30 million people residing. It's a country, and I'm just speaking off the top of my head here, with 100,000 officials, yet it struggles to find even one suitable individual to assume the position of the head of the presidential office. Friends, it's quite amusing, but rest assured there's no void. Don't be concerned, for we do have a specific chain of command and a clear protocol in place for precisely what needs to occur should the head of the presidential office position remain unfilled for an extended period. The Chief of Staff of the Office of the President of Ukraine acts as the head of the Presidential Office of Ukraine. Right now, if you go to the official website of Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, it's Maria Vitushok. Now, that name might not ring any bells for you, but legally speaking, she is indeed the acting head of the presidential office, Yermak, as of today. Well, I'm just kidding around, but this is genuinely happening. Now, let's get to the serious stuff, shall we? And Yermak, I believe, is still located in Ukraine. Yermak, I believe, is in communication with the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, because while rumors of various disagreements are indeed circulating, let's just be frank about the reality of the situation at hand. An individual who occupied a truly critical position, deeply entangled in a multitude of endeavors, especially on the global front, simply cannot disappear for a fortnight and accomplish nothing of significance. And if this silence persists, it seems to me that for certain reasons this individual is deliberately biding their time, letting this information wave past them by. It seems to me he's handling it quite poorly, because if everything were truly satisfactory, then there wouldn't be these sorts of appeals or statements arising from the situation. Frankly, let's call them ironic and sarcastic statements from the rostrum of the Verkhovna Rada. Take a look.
And where is Private Yermak? Where is our fighter? We simply don't know. Maybe on an invisible or visible front and we're unaware. However, we heard that he had already left, disappeared somewhere on the front lines. We don't know exactly where. He just vanished. However, people are saying that he's already being seen. He's showing up somewhere again, somewhere close to the president. There were already announcements about Yermakization and various other things. But is it truly happening? That's the real question. So we'd really like to know, where is he? Where is he? The one on whom everything rests. Our new, formerly omnipotent and perhaps even future leader?
That's irony, of course, performed by Honcharenko, faction head of European Solidarity, from the Verkhovna Rada podium. But any address, again, this is already the second MP who has effectively. Under our laws, any address or proclamation from an MP is considered a parliamentary inquiry. This, friends, is a parliamentary inquiry. An answer is due. But to whom is it even addressed? To other members of parliament? It needs to be formalized, just like the one that Holos by Zelensky submitted, and some kind of answer should be received from them. What are Kolomoisky's thoughts on this matter? It's quite intriguing that Kolomoisky keeps on speaking, or rather weighing in on various subjects. I don't know, while he's there in court, he gives these sort of impromptu briefings, and here he is. Made such a significant assumption regarding the crucial topic of upcoming elections. He connected Volodymyr Zelensky's willingness or unwillingness to participate in the upcoming elections with Yermak's absence. This is quite unexpected, so please have a listen.
He won't even show up for them.
Oh?
99.9%.
Since he's not appointing a chief of staff, it means he's decided to leave along with Yermak. But in this particular instance, I believe Kolomoisky is somewhat mistaken. Why? Because, my friends, we are now witnessing processes that simply would have been out of the question during Yermak's tenure as head of the presidential office. Specifically, we're talking about the change of leadership in the Servant of the People Party. Korniienko is becoming the head of the Servant of the People Party. And Honcharenko writes that before being elected, Korniienko was a political strategist involved in elections. His election as the party leader indicates preparations for the upcoming elections. Therefore, the Servant of the People political force is getting ready for elections. The political party is gearing up for the presidential elections. Let me repeat, parliamentary and local elections are definitely not being considered while martial law is in effect. It's simply not on the table. This was commented on by President Volodymyr Zelensky. We have his direct statement. This was confirmed by President Zelensky. This entire discussion is solely about responding to the stance taken by the United States of America concerning the possibility of holding elections. Presidential elections. Korniienko, Servant of the People, his election as party leader. This is indeed preparation for elections, and I find myself agreeing with Honcharenko's perspective that this reshuffle's primary purpose is truly about getting ready for the upcoming elections. The second reason why I said that this was actually impossible when Yermak was in charge of things, so his disappearance also falls under the same category. Korniienko and Yermak were individuals who consistently found themselves at odds with each other. And Korniienko, as you might recall, had already served as the head of the Servant of the People Party several years prior. However, with the arrival of Yermak, he ceased to be the head of this party. And the question is, why? Well, one of the primary answers to that is conflict. So right now, the complete authority, the full power, rests with both the parliament and the party. Is now much more closely associated with the prominent leaders of this particular political force and its parliamentary faction. Arakamia, as the established leader of the faction, and Korniienko, now making his return as the head of the party, will clearly be taking on the crucial role of managing the preparations for the potential presidential elections. Of course, there's Mariana Bezula, who abandoned the faction, the party, practically everything in the world, yet still continues to attend faction meetings and communicate with those close to the president. She, my friends, perceived this as a matter of justice. So the disappearance of Yermak and its repercussions for Korniienko, that is indeed justice. So as you can see, she just posted the news that Alexander Korniienko has been appointed the new leader of the Servant of the People Party. And she further adds her assessment that Yermak had a conflict, which is precisely what I mentioned earlier, correct? With Korniienko. He then, quote, wound up Zelensky, and Korniienko was removed as head of the Servant of the People Party. When Yermak was fired, Korniienko was brought back. This all happened quite fast, by the way. Will it really save the party that at least existed when Alexander was in charge? I don't think so. Nevertheless, the news is indeed good, and this news specifically is about justice. Now, regarding Zelensky. So, if Korniienko is indeed going to get the Servant of the People Party ready for the presidential elections, and perhaps the top candidate for that party will be Volodymyr Zelensky himself, who in fact founded the party. So, is Kolomoisky's assessment accurate and valid? Because with the disappearance of Yermak, Zelensky will also vanish. He simply has nowhere left to go without Yermak. Zelensky was asked a question, specifically by the publication Kharkiv Life. They posed this question to him, how he feels in general about the concept of online voting. And look, this is an extremely crucial and highly significant point. There's a prevailing opinion that conducting votes through platforms like Dia, Zoom, Meet, or even WhatsApp, essentially any of those digital tools, isn't that right? This particular situation bears a striking resemblance to a calculated attempt at manipulating the upcoming elections. Nobody truly believes right now in, let's say, artificial intelligence or in the algorithms of messengers or applications that are actually capable of properly and representatively replacing a person who goes and casts their ballot into that ballot box, you know? Volodymyr Zelensky, what do you think? Does he support this idea or not? So, what do you think? Just consider it for a moment. And here's the answer I'm about to give you.
Via hadiyas or other electronic methods for Ukrainians residing abroad. I have consistently supported and advocated for legislative changes, raising this issue since the very beginning of the COVID pandemic, so that citizens could cast their votes online, yet no consensus with parliamentarians.
No consensus with parliamentarians, but a consensus will be found, friends. And if you were a candidate or perhaps had aspirations of registering and campaigning for the presidency and even attempting to secure a second term in office, how would you approach this situation? Would you support or oppose such a system? What do you envision your personal stance on this being? Would you decide to endorse this specific method of online voting, or would you opt to oppose it?